In the heart of the ancient world, at the crossroads of continents and cultures, a city rose from a conqueror's dream, Alexandria. And within this shimmering metropolis, a beacon of human intellect was ignited, a place destined to become a legend, the Great Library of Alexandria. This is the story of its monumental rise, its tragic fall, and its immortal legacy. A tale of ambition, genius, and the unquenchable thirst for knowledge that defines humanity itself. Our story begins not with a library, but with a vision. In the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great, a student of the great philosopher Aristotle, conquered a vast empire stretching from Greece to India. On the coast of Egypt, he founded a city that would bear his name and embody his vision of a world united by Greek culture and knowledge. After Alexander's untimely death, his empire fractured. Egypt fell to one of his most trusted generals, Ptolemy I Soter, who established the Ptolemaic dynasty. Ptolemy and his successors were more than just rulers. They were patrons of the arts and sciences. They inherited Alexander's dream of a cultural capital and sought to make Alexandria the intellectual center of the known world. Their audacious goal was to collect all the world's knowledge under one roof, inspired by Aristotle's own Lyceum in Athens. They envisioned something far grander, a universal library, under the guidance of Demetrius of Phaeron, an exiled Athenian statesman. The plan took shape. The Ptolemies established two institutions that would work in tandem: the Museum, or Shrine of the Muses, a research institute where scholars would live and work, and its magnificent heart, the Great Library. The royal treasury funded this colossal project with unparalleled generosity. Ptolemy II Philadelphus, in particular, was obsessed with the acquisition of books. His agents scoured the Mediterranean, buying scrolls from every corner of the world. A royal decree was issued. Any ship docking in Alexandria's harbor had to surrender its books. Scribes would then meticulously copy the texts. The original scrolls were kept for the library, and the new copies were returned to the owners. This aggressive, almost piratical, acquisition policy ensured that the library's collection grew at an astonishing rate. From the plays of Sophocles and Euripides to historical records from Persia and esoteric texts from India, the knowledge of humanity flowed into Alexandria. Estimates varied, but at its peak, the library may have held over 500,000 papyrus scrolls, a staggering repository of wisdom in an age when a single book was a treasure. The dream was becoming a reality. The Library of Alexandria was not just a collection of scrolls, it was a magnet for the greatest minds of the era, heralding a golden age of discovery. Welcome to the golden age of Alexandria. For several centuries, the city was the undisputed epicenter of intellectual life. The museum and its library were more than just buildings, they were a living, breathing ecosystem of genius. Scholars, scientists, poets, and philosophers from across the Hellenistic world were invited to live and work here, all expenses paid by the Ptolemaic kings. They were given the freedom to think, to question, to debate, and to push the boundaries of human understanding. And they certainly did. Within these hallowed halls walked Euclid, the father of geometry. Around 300 BC, he compiled his masterpiece, The Elements. This wasn't just a collection of theorems, it was a revolutionary system of logical deduction, starting from simple axioms and building a complete, coherent framework for geometry. For over 2,000 years, The Elements would stand as the primary textbook for mathematics, shaping the minds of countless generations and defining the very nature of logical proof. His work, born in Alexandria, is a cornerstone of modern science and technology. Then came Eratosthenes, a true polymath and the library's third chief librarian. He was a geographer, a mathematician, and an astronomer. Looking at the world with a curious and analytical eye, he performed one of the most brilliant experiments in history. He had heard that on the summer solstice in the southern city of Syene, the sun cast no shadow at noon. Yet in Alexandria, on the same day, a vertical stick did cast a shadow. By measuring the angle of that shadow, and knowing the distance between the two cities, Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth. His result was astonishingly accurate, off by only a small percentage. In an age of myths and monsters, a scholar in Alexandria had measured the world using nothing but observation and the power of geometry. And who could forget Archimedes of Syracuse? Though he spent most of his life in Sicily, he studied in Alexandria and corresponded with the scholars there. A legendary mathematician, physicist, and engineer, his discoveries echo through the ages. He laid the foundations of hydrostatics and mechanics, famously shouting "Eureka!" after discovering the principle of buoyancy in his bath. He devised ingenious machines like the Archimedes screw and formidable war engines. His work on calculating pi and his methods for determining the area and volume of complex shapes were centuries ahead of their time, prefiguring the development of calculus. The library was also a center for literary scholarship. Librarians like Zenodotus and Aristophanes of Byzantium undertook the monumental task of editing and standardizing the canonical Greek texts, most notably Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. They developed systems of punctuation, accentuation, and critical annotation, creating the very foundations of textual criticism that we still use today. They ensured that the classics of Greek literature would be preserved for posterity in a reliable form. From the mechanics of the cosmos to the structure of a sentence, the scholars of Alexandria were charting the universe. They mapped the stars, dissected the human body, translated sacred texts like the Hebrew Bible into Greek in the Septuagint, and wrote epic poetry. It was a symphony of intellect, a vibrant confluence of ideas where collaboration and competition fueled an unprecedented explosion of knowledge. The golden age of the Library of Alexandria was not just a chapter in history. It was a testament to what humanity can achieve when it dedicates itself to the pursuit of truth. But this brilliant flame, which burned so brightly, was destined to flicker and fade. No single fire, no cataclysmic event can be blamed for the end of the great library. Its demise was not a singular tragedy, but a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts, a gradual decline spanning centuries of political turmoil, neglect, and ideological shifts. The tragic unraveling began within the Ptolemaic dynasty itself. Later rulers lacked the vision and intellectual curiosity of their predecessors. Internal power struggles and civil wars rocked Alexandria. In 145 BC, Ptolemy VIII, a cruel and anti-intellectual tyrant, purged the city's scholars, expelling them from the Museum. This act was a devastating blow, scattering the intellectual community that gave the library its lifeblood. The institution began to stagnate, its vibrant heart weakened. The first major physical blow came with the arrival of Julius Caesar in 48 BC. During his war against his rival Pompey's brother Caesar was besieged in Alexandria. To gain a tactical advantage, he ordered his men to set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor. The flames, whipped by the wind, spread to the docks and warehouses near the shore. Ancient accounts suggest that a significant number of scrolls, perhaps stored in these warehouses awaiting processing, were destroyed. While it's unlikely the main library building itself was razed, this event marked a significant loss and a terrifying omen of the city's vulnerability. The Roman era brought further challenges. As the center of power shifted from Alexandria to Rome, the library's prestige and funding dwindled. It was no longer the crown jewel of an empire, but a provincial institution. Though it continued to function and attract scholars for some time, Its golden age was long past. It suffered from neglect and a lack of the royal patronage that had been its lifeblood. The rise of new ideologies delivered the final blows. In the 3rd century AD, the Roman Empire was in crisis. The Emperor Aurelian, while quelling a revolt in Alexandria in 72 AD, destroyed the royal district where the main library and museum were located. This conflict likely obliterated what remained of the original institution. Any surviving collections were probably housed in the daughter library at the Serapeum, a magnificent temple to the god Serapis. But this last bastion of pagan knowledge was also doomed. In the 4th century, Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire. A rising tide of religious fervor saw the old pagan traditions as a threat. In 391 AD, the fiery patriarch Theophilus of Alexandria, armed with a decree from the emperor to destroy pagan temples, led a mob against the Serapeum. The temple was sacked, and its contents, including the last great collection of scrolls, were likely destroyed or dispersed. It was a symbolic act, representing the triumph of one worldview over another. The flickering lamp of the great library was finally extinguished, not by a single conqueror, but by the slow, inexorable march of history, civil strife, and the changing tides of human belief. The silence that fell over its empty halls would echo for 1,000 years. The loss of the great library of Alexandria is a wound in the collective memory of civilization. It's a haunting what-if of history. What knowledge was lost forever in those flames and purges? What scientific breakthroughs, philosophical insights, or epic histories vanished without a trace? We can only speculate. Perhaps a more complete understanding of the cosmos, advanced mathematical concepts, or detailed histories of ancient civilizations that are now lost to us. The destruction represents the fragility of knowledge, a stark reminder that what is created by generations can be erased in a moment of violence or an era of neglect. The Dark Ages that followed in Europe were made darker by the absence of the light that once shone from Alexandria. Yet, the legacy of the library is not solely one of loss. It is also one of profound and enduring influence. The knowledge that was copied, translated, and disseminated from Alexandria seeded the intellectual traditions of the Roman and Byzantine empires. When Arab scholars conquered Egypt in the 7th century, they encountered the remnants of this Hellenistic learning. They embraced it, translated Greek texts into Arabic, and built upon them, sparking the Islamic Golden Age. Thinkers like Al-Kindi and Avicenna preserved and expanded upon the works of Euclid and Aristotle. Centuries later, during the Renaissance, European scholars rediscovered these texts through Arabic translations and contact with the Byzantine world. This rediscovery of classical knowledge, much of it preserved through the lineage of Alexandria, helped ignite the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment in Europe. The very methods of the library scholars' textual criticism, systematic cataloging, the institutional support for research became the blueprint for modern universities and research libraries everywhere. The spirit of Alexandria never truly died. It was simply passed from one civilization to another, a torch of inquiry carried through the ages. Today, that spirit has found a new home. In 2002, on the shores of the Mediterranean, near the site of the ancient wonder, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina was inaugurated. This stunning modern library and cultural center is not an attempt to replicate the past, but to reignite its mission. With its vast digital archive, its planetarium, museums, and space for dialogue, it embodies the ancient dream of a universal repository of knowledge, reimagined for the 21st century. It stands as a symbol of hope, a testament to the idea that even after destruction and loss, the human desire to learn, to connect, and to understand is irrepressible. The story of the Library of Alexandria is more than a historical account. It is an epic that speaks to our deepest aspiration. It teaches us to cherish our centers of learning, to protect the freedom of inquiry, and to remember that the pursuit of knowledge is the most noble and enduring adventure of all. The scrolls may have turned to dust, but the vision of Alexandria continues to inspire us to build a brighter, more enlightened future. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, please consider subscribing for more stories like this one.